When you're working in government and Bob Woodward's number pops up on your phone, which has happened to me, your heart rate picks up a little bit, no matter what administration you're in. And he's going to be here at the table in just a few minutes. But first, I want to show you something he said the last time we spoke, because it was right after the election, just a few weeks after. And one of the things we talked about was the glaring incompetence of the people Donald Trump was picking for his cabinet. People like Pete Hegseth.
I have known over the reporting time I've had for 5 decades, 16 secretaries of defense, going back even before I was reporter Robert McNamara. And they have to know management, they have to know what the responsibility is, they have to know where the levers of power are. And in this appointee, I see none of that.
16 secretaries of defense. I see none of that, is what he said. And yet it didn't take an investigative mind like Bob Woodward's to know that Pete Hegseth as Secretary of Defense might be slightly problematic. I mean, before running the U.S. military, he was a weekend morning show host on Fox News with a reputation for going years without washing his hands, which, by the way, is his admission, just to make it even weirder. And no shade to cable news hosts, obviously, even ones who get a little crazy on New Year's Eve, you can see there. It's not a job that exactly prepares you to run the Pentagon as your next step. There were also the countless allegations of Hegseth drinking on the job, both at veterans organizations and at Fox News. The New Yorker reported he once got so drunk that he had to be restrained from getting on a stage at a Louisiana strip club. There were the allegations that he ran those relatively small veterans organizations into the ground financially. And of course, there were the allegations about his abuse of women, including a second wife. He denied all of it, of course, but yeah, it's safe to say there were some signs that maybe this guy wasn't exactly fit for the job of overseeing the Defense Department. And so when we saw this headline at the end of March, it was one of those things that was both shocking but kind of unsurprising. And the very first paragraph of Jeffrey Goldberg's story was, again, both shocking but entirely unsurprising in a lot of ways. I mean, here's what it said, quote, "The world found out shortly before 2 p.m. Eastern Time on March 15th that the United States was bombing Houthi targets across Yemen. I, however, knew 2 hours before the first bombs exploded that the attack might be coming. The reason I knew this is that Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, had texted me the war plan at 11:44 a.m. The plan included precise information about weapons, packages, targets, and timing." Well, a few hours after that story was published, Jeffrey Goldberg was here at this table, and we watched together as Pete Hegseth looked straight into the camera and lied about what Jeffrey Goldberg knew to be true.
You're talking about a deceitful and highly discredited so-called journalist who's made a profession of peddling hoaxes time and time again. Nobody was texting war plans, and that's all I have to say about that.
I'm going to be responsible here and not disclose the things that I read and saw. I will describe them to you. The specific time of a future attack, specific targets, including human targets, meant to be killed in that attack, weapon systems, even weather reports.
Now, as you know, eventually Goldberg did release the screenshots of what Hegseth texted him, laying out in explicit detail the weaponry and sequencing involved with that attack. And even after those screenshots were released, Hegseth kept on lying.
I noticed this morning out came something that doesn't look like war plans. And as a matter of fact, they even changed the title to attack plans because they know it's not war plans. There's no units, no locations, no routes, no flight paths, no sources, no methods, no classified information.
I mean, I've watched that clip a lot of times. It's almost like the louder he talks, the more believable he thinks it will be, I guess. I don't know. But even though we knew he was lying, even though we knew he had texted war plans to a reporter or attack plans, whatever you want to call them, he kept his job. Trump defended him. Republicans in Congress didn't do a whole lot. And despite the fact that there were obviously other signal chats with classified information on them, that story kind of faded into the background, in part because Donald Trump decided to tank the global economy and also ship people to foreign prisons without any charges. My point is, there were a lot of pressing stories to cover. But over the past few days, we started to get this sense that something else might be coming out of Pete Hegseth's Pentagon. Because on Friday, top officials of the Pentagon started getting fired. And they started getting fired for, wait for it, this is almost my favorite detail, leaking. And believe me, the irony is only going to get richer as we keep telling this story. 3 Pentagon officials close to Hegseth, his former senior advisor, Dan Caldwell, former Deputy Chief of Staff, Jaron Selnick, and the Deputy Defense Secretary's Chief of Staff, Colin Carroll, confirmed they were placed on administrative leave. On Friday, we also learned that Joe Casper, Hegseth's own Chief of Staff, would be transferring to a different role in the Pentagon. And John Elliott, another senior Pentagon official, also said he resigned last week, although the Pentagon said they asked him to resign. So lots of firings, a bunch of resignations, apparently about leaks. So yeah, it kind of felt like something was coming. Well, lo and behold, late yesterday afternoon, the New York Times dropped a bombshell report about another signal chat. The Times writes, quote, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth shared detailed information about forthcoming strikes in Yemen on March 15th in a private signal group chat that included his wife, brother, and personal lawyer. Some of those people said that the information Hegseth shared on the signal chat included the flight schedules for the FA-18 Hornets targeting the Houthis in Yemen. Essentially the same attack plans that he shared on a separate signal chat the same day that mistakenly included the editor of The Atlantic. Now, Hegseth's brother Phil does work at the Pentagon, although he's not anywhere near a role that directly involves military operations, and for good reason. As the AP reports, based on Phil Hegseth's publicly available resume, his past experience includes founding his own podcast production company and working on social media and podcasts at the Hudson Institute. That said, Phil the podcaster might have some kind of security clearance. We really don't know. As for Hegseth's wife, well, she has already been kind of a point of contention. You see, Jennifer Hegseth does not actually work for the Department of Defense, and yet we know that she has been sitting in on sensitive meetings. As the Wall Street Journal reported just last month, quote, one of the meetings, a high-level discussion, took place at a sensitive moment for the transatlantic alliance, one day after the U.S. said it had cut off military intelligence sharing with Ukraine. The group discussed the U.S. rationale behind that decision. The Pentagon has been asked in the past about whether Jennifer, a former Fox News producer, has a security clearance. I don't know why she would, but who knows. They have declined to answer the question, which is quite telling on its own. But here's the thing. Even if both Jennifer the wife and Phil the podcaster do have security clearances, there's still no reason for the defense secretary to be texting them attack plans and details about a military operation. Because typically the people who have access to this type of information are categorized as need to know. And if you're in the need to know group, it means it's essential that you have the details of the operation or classified information in order to do your jobs. Meaning just because you have a certain level of security clearance, it doesn't mean you have access to every piece of information that is in that level of security clearance. It's if you really need to know it. Generally, that group does not include a liaison officer like Phil Hegseth, and it certainly does not include the secretary's spouse. So that story broke yesterday, and then Secretary Hegseth's day got, I would say, even worse. As I mentioned just a moment ago, his former aide, a guy by the name of John Elliott, one of the staffers who quit, published an op-ed in Politico, describing his month from hell, as he describes it, working for Hegseth. Elliott writes that, quote, it's hard to see Hegseth remaining in his role for much longer, adding, quote, the last month has been a full-blown meltdown at the Pentagon, and it's becoming a real problem for the administration. Elliott also hinted at the secretary's week getting even worse, saying, quote, and this is quite a thing to write in an op-ed, there are very likely more shoes to drop in short order, with even bigger bombshell stories coming this week. Key Pentagon reporters have been telling sources privately. Who knows what will come? We'll see. But a former senior aide is predicting that. Now, just for some context, John Elliott is not at all some sort of undercover resistance crusader. He's the former Pentagon spokesperson, best known for a statement to ESPN defending the Pentagon's decision to wipe references to baseball legend Jackie Robinson's military service by saying, quote, DEI is dead at the Defense Department. It's that guy. He's also the one who took the lead in kicking a number of prominent media outlets, like the New York Times, the Washington Post, and CNN, out of their Pentagon workspaces. I mean, he's a dyed-in-the-wool MAGA guy. He probably still has his hat in his closet, or maybe he's wearing it on the weekend. I don't know. He's been with Donald Trump since the 2016 campaign. And he actually spends much of that op-ed I quoted lavishing praise on Trump's warped view of national security. But he draws the line at Pete Hegseth. And now at least one Republican congressman seems to share his view, saying out loud for the first time that Hegseth must go. And yet, all day long, the White House did what it always does, right before Donald Trump unceremoniously fires someone on social media. We see there's like a pattern here. They close ranks around the guy. The press secretary even took the time to deny a report that Hegseth was about to be fired. And they all just, of course, blame the media for reporting on what people inside the Pentagon told them.
This is what the media does. They take anonymous sources from disgruntled former employees, and then they try to slash and burn people and ruin their reputations.
It's just fake news. They just bring up stories. I guess it sounds like disgruntled employees.
This is what happens when the entire Pentagon is working against you and working against the monumental change that you are trying to implement.
The trumpet in that first few parts is quite something in the background. But that aside, I mean, the Pentagon is working against Pete Hegseth, like the entire Pentagon as an institution. Did the entire Pentagon as an institution type a signal text chain on the Secretary of Defense's personal phone that included detailed military operations and then force him to include his wife and brother? Because that would be quite a story. That would be a huge story. Of course, that's not what happens. And these are the same non-denial denials that Trump world always churns out when they know that a reporter has caught them red-handed, doing something they're not supposed to do. Sadly, we're kind of used to this by now. Seems like every day this administration is scrambling to clean up one mess or another mess. Because when it comes to staffing the government, Donald Trump isn't sending his best.